Going back to the videos here. So the I already said it before, and I say it again that I wasn't like I don't have a whole team of backup. I don't have a whole team of backup. Unfortunately, I people are gonna think you just want people to take your side and fight in your conflicts, and I mean they already are, right? So that wasn't in my, if they couldn't emotionally control themselves and had impulse issue. Obviously there's people out there who have the cybernetics. I already know that you're dealing with a machine at this point, whether it's a matrix or some machine. These people are popping out of nowhere, like from portals, and it's some kind of matrix, or even the whole system. Like at this point it's definitely being run by a computer. It's not being run by a man. It's impossible. It's humanly not possible to survive in the modern world, to do it as a biological human being, like an actual human being. Whether you believe there's a soul or not, that's up to you, but a human being would have to do this, right? I can't do this, right? Like I can barely do this. You can see the cane. And again, I feel horrible, right? Like I used to judge those people, 50 people, one house, Finley Creek, and people are gonna be like, it's because you, it's because you 50 people, one house, and it's because it's because you did this, that, and the other, and I don't say that, I don't mean to say that, right? But it is true that 50 people, one house, I'm not trying to gain the popular vote, right? I'm not even a politician. I'm just a guy walking outside, right? Like in Canada, this is the only information I'll give you. In the past, okay, if people wanted to argue that the Sims games, and that I created those people, and they're real people that were 15 people, one house, right? Or they were college dorm room and somebody burnt the craft dinner or something. I mean, I hope that's not the case, right? But I look at the proportions of the door to my dorm room, and it looks eerily similar to that of the Sims. And I mean, that's I'm using every human concept in the book, everything that I know to fight not degeneracy, but to fight ignorance, to fight the physical makeup of the world that prevents you from living your life to the fullest extent, that produces evil, right? Because not everybody gets a chance to speak. Not everybody actually gets a chance to speak and explain why they're upset, and all we see is the part where they're frustrated, where someone gets violently attacked, and that's not the truth, right? That's part of the truth. Yes, obviously it's not right that the person, maybe you have to judge it. You have to weigh what happened to them against what they how they reacted, and you have to look at it from the perspective that the modern world, it's frustration, and you wanting things to happen when you want them to happen. That's how you should view them. And so it's hard for me to say, right? Because if there's a bunch of white people, old white people rotting in a hospital, dying of some disease, and we don't know if it's even deserved or not at this point, right? So do I feel bad? I mean, I felt bad about the family doctor shortage, right? I volunteered to be a family doctor, right? The cartel has they have an infinite number of family doctors. So even they don't have these issues. But I'm not here to suggest that again, I know there's people watching this. There's some people who've been let down pretty bad. That they I know there's some people who watch these kinds of videos and they've been let down pretty bad, and they're very pessimistic and nihilistic. I get that. I'm not here to change your opinion in one video, and I'm not here to actually change your opinion at all and convince you to support my ideology or political party, right? This isn't a political movement. Actually, it is, but it's my political movement, and it's all about destroying these complicated, very difficult things that destroy your life and make your life very difficult. Everyone's talking, everybody has something to say, but you don't even know what's going on at this point. You have no idea what's going on, right? Whether or not there's a more capable, competent individual, appearing out of the sky, right? And they know what to do, right? Or a bunch of people are manifesting this one individual that would save or fix all their problems, right? This one individual who sociologically appeals to everybody, and then psychologically, I can't say, right? I can't say. I don't put past judgment to these people, right? Um, and for some reason, these old like mentalities, these old ways of like old old stigmas, they still last till this day, right? And it makes no difference that I make this video and I try to reason with the reason with the unreasonable, right? And especially with like some old hick who doesn't want to like talk at all, right? And I get that, right? Like, I wish we could go back to the past, right? Everybody knows that the past is better. The present has nothing really to offer, so we're just it sucks. And I didn't want things to come to this point either, right? Like, I wish things were different. I didn't want there to be a police state. I dead ass didn't want there to be a police state. I never intended that. Going the full, here I'm gonna move through here. Going through the full circuit. You don't ever want to like a full surveillance. Having me to make these videos and talk about these issues, but the issues already happened, so somebody has to say something. And it's not really relevant that people over here or they don't hear. It makes no difference at this point because the problem already happened, right? And if nobody said anything, then they wouldn't do anything, right? If nobody like said anything about these problems, then nothing changes, and the time was wasted. People's lives destroyed, time wasted. The attacks occur and the shit hits the fan, and then that's it. So at least if you make a video like this and you try to like mediate before intervene before problems occur, then at least at least you're trying to mediate, and you're trying to like deal with the problem, as opposed to letting it get out of control. For me personally, right? Like, once I reach my like the best I'm gonna have in this life is a tent in Windsor, right? That's it. That's the best that I have. That's the best my life will ever get to. It's a tent in Windsor, and like, it's all because maybe someone in the past or some other like these things like these things aren't worth it, right? The real world isn't worth it. There's nothing this world has to offer that should keep you here, and you should treat it like a dumpster because it treats you like a dumpster. Why would you give anybody respect that fucking disrespects you on a daily basis? It doesn't hold any merit. It holds no meaning. Why would you do that, right? Why would you do that to yourself? Do you have like a self-harm issue? Do you have like mental health issues where you have like suicidal ideations that you willingly put yourself in these positions, and you're willing to put yourself in harm's way? Like what the fuck is wrong with you? So I should have good battery percentage because of the weather. 1 second. I'm gonna cut through on the right here to see if I can make it to Pinhave, of course. 1 second.